You can SMS at any time during the show. Type Spectrum, leave a space, type in your contribution and name, then send it to 7197. Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello and welcome. This is Spectrum on Radio 1. I'm your host, Edmond Chizito. On Spectrum tonight, the imminent fall of Colonel Muammar el-Gaddafi. Is this a wake-up call to all African leaders? Today, the world woke up to news that Libyan rebels, who now prefer to be called revolutionaries, had taken over 80% of Tripoli, with only 20% remaining under the control of only a few pro-Gaddafi forces. After 6 months of fighting, the rebel forces were able to weaken the Gaddafi defense positions and infiltrate Tripoli to the point of attacking the presidential compound, despite an earlier message from Gaddafi that rebels, who he referred to as rats, R-A-T-S, the small animals, would not enter Tripoli. 3 sons of Gaddafi have been captured, and the revolutionaries are also hoping to capture Gaddafi alive and give him what they are calling a fair public trial. The departure of Gaddafi, one of the longest-serving African strongmen in courts, has left many wondering what implications it might have on the rest of the African continent. The African Union Security Council has called an emergency meeting today to discuss the way forward, with many hinting on a possible isolation of the new leadership, which would be a strange thing indeed, many people would say. The government of Uganda has indicated a willingness to work with the new leadership, but on condition that it adheres to the demands of the Libyan people to ensure democracy, human rights, and good governance. Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa has, however, indicated that this government is not ready to offer Gaddafi political asylum, as had earlier been reported. So tonight we analyze the developments in Libya, trying to understand what impact they are likely to have on the rest of Africa, and what possible changes we are likely to see after Gaddafi. He was in power 41 years. Our guests tonight, Honorable Jack Wamanga Wamai, Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mbale Municipality MP, also a retired diplomat. He was there 25 years. You're most welcome, Honorable Wamanga Wamai.
Thank you very much. Good evening, listeners.
We are also joined by Ambassador Harold Acemah, a retired diplomat, now a consultant on international affairs. He was also in the Foreign Service for about 30 years. You're most welcome, Ambassador Acemah is joining us on the line. You're most welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you, Edmond. Good evening, my dear guests and the listeners and viewers.
We also expect to be joined in the studios by Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to the President, also editor of the Contemporary Africa Review magazine, and a renowned Pan-Africanist. We'll introduce him as soon as he gets here. Ambassador Wamai, also honorable, after 6 months of battle, some 80% of Tripoli is now confirmed in the hands of the rebels. Currently, there's a debate on what this victory means for the people of Libya and everywhere else. What is your view on this?
I think this is great. This is great for the people of Libya and Africa in general, and the peace-loving people, the people who wanted the change in Libya, and the people who have never taken up arms when there was no repression. So for the people who wanted the change are celebrating, and we're very happy that Gaddafi is gone. 42 years of one man's reign is indeed a terrible one. I told Parliament that the wind of change was blowing in North Africa. It was blowing. You can see what happened in Egypt, what happened in Tunisia, and now Libya. And if you pose a question, why should people get on the streets? People get on the streets to show anxiety, to show that they are really repressed. If there is no repression, nobody will ever come out and go to the streets to demonstrate. You see what happened in Egypt. Mubarak was coming out with over 80%, 82% of victory in fake-made elections. But the Egyptians said enough is enough, and they came out on the streets of Cairo. One would have never expected that one to happen in Egypt. But you see what happened in Tunisia. Now, for one man ruling a country for 42 years, outside they say, oh, this is a revolutionary, and the revolutionaries don't go. But the people matter, and the Libyans took up arms, and they said enough was enough, and who are happy that the regime of Gaddafi is gone.
Well, you mentioned something poignant. Let's not lose it. You say in Egypt, Mr. Mubarak used to win elections with 85% and above. I think the last election won it with 93%. I'm not very certain, but I think it went very high. What are you saying here? He had been in power only 30 years, 5 terms of 6 years. That's the Egyptian system.
30 years is a long time. And if one was really popular, winning by 90%, 95%, then the people of Egypt who would have voted for him would have never come out on the streets.
So what's the relationship?
So the 95% is not true. If you are such a popular person, why should your people come up in uprisings? This is not true. This is fake. In African elections, these results are not true. And therefore you can see how many people got up in the Tahrir Square to protest. And you can see now the humiliation which Mbale is going through. You look at a leader, 30 years. You imagine 30 years when you're born in 30 years. It's a long time. And when you bring up this one of Gaddafi, almost 42 years.
In December, he would have made 50.
He would have made 42 years. This is a long time. And you can see the way it's going now. If there was constitutionalism, good governance, democracy, elections where everybody participates, and you say that, look, if those term limits, a man is there for 2 terms or 3 terms, whatever, even if one is a bad leader, you said, let's give him a chance, benefit of doubt, 5 years, another 5 years, he will go, and the people will have a chance to elect another person. If those term limits, which was respected in Libya, Gaddafi would have gone and people would have remembered the good part, the good things he did for the Libyans.
Right.
But when you are forced out by arms, when people come up and take up arms, then they forget everything. That's why the issue of participatory democracy is very important. Terms. You can withstand a bad leader. That this leader is going to be there for 5 years or 7 years, just send a term. Or 10 years, 2 terms, 20 years. Yes. And you wait that, look, let's give him 5 years or 10 years. After 10 years, the man will go and will elect in somebody else. But when you keep shifting goalposts, then people are forced to come to the streets. And the people will never come to the streets of any capital if they are happy.
If they love you.
If they love you, they will never do it. But see what has happened to the longest serving man in Africa. Nobody could believe that Libyans could come out. For us here, people thought this was a wonderful man. Of course, he would go around the whole of Africa.
We even have a street and a mosque name after him.
Can you imagine? He would go flashing money here and there, doing this and that, and the people thought this was a great man. This was a great man. You recall when he came to the African summit here in Munyonyo, he just left the meeting and went and sat there. And you could see how he behaved towards journalists, how he slapped even his guards.
Before going to sit down under a tree to roast cassava.
Can you imagine? No respect. This is a man who had no respect over African leaders.
He summoned the Tanzanian president under a tree where he said. Anyhow, let's hear from our second guest, Ambassador Harold Acemah, retired diplomat, consultant on international affairs. You're most welcome, Spectrum, Ambassador Acemah.
Thank you, Edmond. Let me start by agreeing entirely with what my colleague and friend Wamai just said. I think there are many lessons which all of us can learn from the tragedy in Libya. And he has mentioned many of them. And firstly, it's a tragedy for the people of Libya. Libya is a member of the African Union. And Libya has been instrumental, especially in the establishment of the African Union from OAU. And as I've said before, the Union was the brainchild of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. And in 1963, when OAU was founded, it was only Uganda and Ghana which were ready and willing to go straight to African Union. But it took Gaddafi. In fact, again, it's a lot of odds. So to give credit to him, that would be at least one positive.
Ambassador Acemah, can I ask you to lower the volume on your radio? It's giving some feedback into the sound. Go on, sir.
Okay. So he he left that positive legacy. I think without him, maybe today the AU would not have been established. But like Honorable Wamai said, he overstayed his welcome. And this is a lesson for all African leaders. And this is one of the reasons why we need term limits. However good you are, however popular you might have been in the beginning, Gaddafi was popular. Gaddafi came to power in 1969. I think it was 1st September.
In December.
1969. He was a popular man. He overthrew King Idris. And iron of it is that towards the end, he crowned himself King of Kings. And he was now in the process of establishing a dynasty, like his son, Islam, who has been arrested and who is being charged in ICC, was being groomed to succeed him. He overthrew a hereditary monarch. Now he was going to establish a new monarch. So these are the contradictions in our politics in Africa. You do one thing, you would, on principle, you stand against something, then tomorrow you start doing the same thing. It's very sad. It makes us look ridiculous, you know. Africa is becoming a laptop history, you know. And Libya is a very rich country. It's got enormous oil resources with a small population. Yes, true, he did quite a lot of good things for his population. But you see, those material things cannot
they cannot be substituted for freedom.
Yes. You know, they can't be a substitute for freedom. Freedom is more precious. Even if you give everybody $10,000 per month for free, you give free housing, you give free education, without freedom, it'd be like staying in a 5-star jail. You know. So I think African leaders and Africans generally have many lessons to learn from what has happened in North Africa, from Tunisia, from Egypt, and from Libya now.
All right.
And all the leaders of these countries were people who overstayed in power. And really, it is not good for our countries, not good for the legacy of our leaders. Now, the Gaddafi is going to go down as a villain when he could have gone as a hero.
Yes.
You know. So I hope that our leaders will learn the lessons from these three tragic cases.
All right. This is Spectrum.
And
yes, listeners, this is Spectrum.
like just what I was saying.
Yes.
The wind of change is blowing across Africa, and nothing is going to stop it.
Okay.
The wind will blow, and it is going to remove even more trees along the way.
You think so?
So this is something which we're watching, and unfortunately, like in Libya, the 190 ordinary people have suffered more. The people have died. Yesterday or this morning, somebody was made a remark about what he was watching on TV about Libya. He said, no, he has not seen any dead bodies. No, which I found, partly.
Okay.
But of course, there have been a lot of casualties.
All right.
I'm sure over 1,000 or more people have died in these last 6 months since February.
All right, Ambassador Acemah.
And it is unnecessary.
Okay.
You know, in fact, if Gaddafi had left like Ben Ali of Tunisia, or even Mubarak, even the destruction, the destruction to infrastructure of Libya is enormous. It's going to cost a lot of money. So, thank God they have oil resources, but still, you have to literally want to bring the country down with you because you want to remain in power.
Okay.
The country will remain here. If you're a leader, today you are here, tomorrow you will go, but the country remains. The people remain.
Okay, Ambassador Acemah, we'll take it deeper than that. Certainly do stay with us. I believe you're still with us. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1 tonight. We are discussing the imminent fall of Colonel Muammar al-Gaddafi. Is this a wake-up call to all African leaders? Our guest, Honorable Wamanga Wamai, here in the studio, is the Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mbale Municipality MP. He was in the diplomatic service for 25 years, retired only recently. We have Ambassador Harold Acemah on the line. He's a retired diplomat consultant on international affairs. He too was there for about 23 years, I think. We also expect to be joined here in the studio by Mr. Kintu, Nyago, Deputy Principal Private Secretary to President Yoweri Museveni, also editor of the Contemporary Africa Review magazine and a renowned, well-known Pan-Africanist. You'll also be able to call in later. I'll read out the numbers when we come back after the break, which is also coming back later. Honorable Ambassador Wamai, the involvement of the West in the bombardments, will it not taint this victory?
No, you see, they saw the reason is why the rebel took up arms and they came to assist. Look at our war of liberation here. The Tanzanians came in and helped us to Wamanga. So I don't see why now people said, oh, Western countries, NATO. They saw what Gaddafi was doing to the people of Libya. Gaddafi had taken that country as his personal property. The resources in this country, Libya, the riches, the bank accounts anywhere in the world, Gaddafi was taking it as his personal property. The Libyan people had no word at all. And therefore, that's why all this happened. That's why the people came up and the Western countries didn't say, no, we are going into help the people of Libya who are fighting for freedom. And indeed, they helped them. And therefore, I cannot see a reason why we start condemning. You see what happened? Genocide in Rwanda.
Yes.
And we're saying the UN did not come in.
True.
And many countries did not go in. Even here, when Idi Amin was butchering Ugandans, we said, no, they look at African Ugandans dying.
Right.
Until Nyerere came in and helped us. We not raise a finger. But now, in Libya, when NATO countries came in to assist the Libyan people say, oh, the Western countries. So I don't think. Because the people of Libya are up jubilating. That's a country where there was a lot of repression. People could not speak in Libya. It was a police state. You are picked and taken. For us outside here, we thought the death was a wonderful man. But the Libyans, if you meet Libyan diplomats, you can see how many of his ministers took off. Because there was a lot of repression in that country. And therefore you can see by the repression that have come up on the streets. And the rebel group, which is not very big, they made it up to Tripoli. And I presume many of Gaddafi's generals have gone on the side of rebels.
Right.
So this is people's revolution. And when you are putting up a revolution and helped, then you are not really condemning the law because some people come. Look at how many 27 who went to the bush here.
Yes.
They were helped. And actually, Libya is one of those countries that's sponsored.
True.
They help here. Therefore, cannot say that is going to do.
It won't change.
It won't change. But you see, people forget that when you overstay in power, you really make enemies. And you don't take the examples. Oh, people like Mwalimu Nyerere. Mwalimu Nyerere said, no, enough is enough. He handed over to Ben Mkapa. Mkapa went in for 2 terms. He handed over to Kikwete.
He handed over to Mwenye.
Yes, to Mwenye. And yes,
Mwenye handed over to
Kikwete. You can see, look at Diouf in Senegal.
Yes.
Look at Namibia. Mujoma handed over. Look at Mozambique. Look at Botswana.
Yes.
And these people don't see these leaders handing over peacefully.
Right.
And these are now the people who can walk with their heads up. They can go and give lectures anywhere. Right. Because they respected what democracy is. And they handed over. Look what Mandela, the man Nelson Mandela,
one term,
who suffered in prison
27 years.
27 years. This is a man who would have said, no, I'll never leave. I was fighting, I suffered, I was tortured, and therefore I should cling to power.
He could say he slaughtered his animals. Yes, he needs to.
He handed over. So you can see where peaceful changes take place, and you don't destroy the resources. Look what the people who have been killed in Libya because of one man, because he wanted to cling to power. He wanted to cling, and the deaths that have been brought against the people of Libya, the destruction. But if he had gone in peace and said, no, the people of Libya have come up in arms to say, no, enough is enough of me. Let me stand aside and become an advisor. And this is what we appeal to most of African leaders. Those ones who are shifting goalposts, they should learn. It's trying to catch up with all of them. These people have stayed in power for so many years. There are now a few left. Right. But they should take a lesson from what has happened in Libya. Nobody would have ever thought that Gaddafi would go with the arrogance and the pomp everywhere.
The king of kings.
King of kings.
Slapped a bodyguard in front of dignitaries.
Yes.
Of course, Ambassador Wamai, we know that you're talking about the fate of Gaddafi. One of his sons was killed and 3 have now been captured. That would take a toll on any parent. But you also said that many people have left him. I think the leader, Abdul Jalil, who's leading the NTC, was justice minister until around about May or June. And then Libya's former ambassador here, Bujeldian, he had been around for a long time, maybe 20 years. He also left and went to South Africa before going to join the rebels in Benghazi. And you also mentioned Rwanda. You said Clinton actually apologized on behalf of the US for not intervening during the genocide. So you're legitimizing the West coming in and other countries.
Most of the revolutions were being supported. You cannot find any revolution in Africa when we are fighting for independence who are supported.
Right.
Yes. And therefore, we have good examples. And therefore, cannot condemn the Western for having come on the side of the Libyan people. And good enough, I'm glad my foreign minister has already said they've recognized the new government and we are going to work with them.
All right.
That's quite good.
This is Spectrum on Radio, and tonight, the imminent fall of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. It's almost over. 80% of the capital is taken up. There are riots, celebrations, people honking their horns and jubilating. We're asking, is this a wake-up call to all African leaders? We're going for a break. We'll be right back.
Let's show you how to multiply your savings, starting with the cash beneath the mattress to the savings in the bank that aren't making money. Let's turn your savings into somethings with Super Save Reloaded. Super Save Reloaded brings you savings and investment accounts which offer you a sure and predictable way to multiply your savings. For more information about Super Save Reloaded, ask at your nearest Stanbic Bank branch.
Stanbic Bank, moving forward.
3 times a year, every year for the past 6 years, I have been stressed going to pay school fees. I've woken up at the crack of dawn, taken 2 taxis and a boarder. Finally arrived, filled out the forms. I have lined up between a guy with kavubuka and a guy with a nasty cough. And I've waited and waited, but no more now. I have moved on with MTN mobile money. So now I pay school fees directly from my mobile while I spend time with my children.
When you move on with MTN mobile money, your children can move on to greater things. And now, everyone can pay school fees with MTN mobile money. So, be one of the 100 people to win 100,000 shillings towards your next school shopping when you pay school fees with MTN mobile money.
MTN, everywhere you go.
So class, we learned today that there is Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, and the new Blue Band spread for bread, which is specially formulated for breading. Good. Some people want a Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, while others want a new Blue Band spread for bread, specially formulated for breading. And that is even gooder. We now have Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, and the new Blue Band spread for bread for breading.
Blue Band now gives you a choice. Blue Band original for spreading, cooking and baking, and new Blue Band spread for bread, which is specially formulated for spreading, making it more affordable.
Therefore, if you have the new Blue Band spread for bread and you spread it on the bread, that means you are doing what? Teacher! Spreading!
Daily Blue Band, daily growth.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90 is brought to you by Stanbic Bank.
Welcome back on Spectrum tonight. The imminent fall of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. Is this a wake-up call to all African leaders? Our guests tonight, Honorable Wamanga Wamai, Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, Member of Parliament for Mbale Municipality, He's a veteran. He was a diplomat for 25 years. We're also joined by another retired diplomat, Ambassador Harold Acemah, kindly joining us on the line. He's a consultant right now on international affairs. He was in the foreign service between 20 and 30 years. We're still waiting for Mr. Kintu Nyago, Deputy PPS to the President, also editor of the Contemporary Africa Review magazine. We still expect him to join us. He's also a Pan-Africanist. You'll also be able to call in later. Muammar Gaddafi, he has one of the biggest road signs he has a road named after him, and one of the biggest road signs gracing that road. Let's talk about Libya after Gaddafi. We don't expect him to come back, literally, really, unless you believe in magic. What kind of Libya can we expect to see after Gaddafi is gone?
Of course, after a new government is sworn in Tripoli, they should come to the